Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Attack on Titan anime review. This one's going to be for Season 4, Episode 11. Once again, I am anime only with Attack on Titan. I do not know what happens in the manga, just for anyone wondering. But yeah, let's get into this. Very interesting episode, a bit of a different episode. I didn't quite expect it to go quite this way. I thought we'd get more of a follow-up to what happened last week, and we get more of the action of like, what's going on with the wine? Is some sort of a big poisoning going to happen? Is Zeke going to do something? But instead they gave us a pretty much entirely character-driven episode. We brought Gabi and Falco back into things in a big way, getting to focus on them again. And then a few other sort of scattered scenes with kind of some a little bit random character dynamics, but very interesting character dynamics with like Hanji and like the press and so on, the merchants, the flock sort of interrogation scene again with Hanji, Louise and Mikasa in the prison, and then of course the big one, Gabi and Falco talking to Kaya, which again is like who's Louise? Who's Kaya? Like this is our getting introduced to them pretty much for the first time. But I love the references here of like these are characters who are even younger than our main cast, who have sort of grown up a bit because of the time skip, who are just sort of random kids back when we first saw them, and we see how they've grown, what situation they're in at this point, and how it's defined them, of like Louise, inspired by Mikasa saving her and helping them to escape, has joined up with the military and the scouts to become sort of like Mikasa, and Kaya has obviously become part of the orphanage because of what happened to her mother and stuff like that. And she is the one to really, I suppose, get through to Gabi that the Eldians of today are not responsible for what potentially Eldians did in the past, and just really opening up the idea of you are just reciting basically, Gabi, what you have been told about Eldians. What are your actual opinions on them? And that was so fascinating to see over the course of the whole episode. Like, just from even the start of the brutal way that she kills that soldier. And again, the way they frame this again is Falco eventually says to her, "Why did you do that? He came in because he was like concerned for you. He was worried that something bad had happened to you, and you just like violently killed him like that." Really questioning her. And it's so interesting how this episode sort of has you feel as an audience member about the character, because you really liked her after the first few episodes. Then your opinion on her went down because she kills Sasha. Like you can't just like really accept that all that much. But this episode helps to remind you of those earlier episodes, of the other sides of her personality, and that if she can break through and kind of have the same awakening that Falco has had to the truth about, the devils of Paradis just being kind of normal people, that there's no such thing as a sort of like good Marleyan Eldian as such, like Gabi is talking about, we can actually get back on board with her. And this episode definitely planted a lot of seeds just with regards to, a little bit, maybe overly convenient that, here she is, they've ran away and they've ended up on, the farm of the parents of the girl that Gabi killed, Sasha, and they meet the girl who Sasha rescued in a previous episode. Tad convenient, but for the character of Gabi, it's going to mean so much when I suppose the truth about that eventually comes out. These people who I suppose she'll come to see as normal people who have helped her, maybe even like them, become friends with them a little bit over the next few episodes, she is suddenly going to get the revelation that I killed their daughter. Yet, and as well as that, I suppose, if she is revealed to them, how do Sasha's parents react to if they find out that Gabi was the one who killed Sasha? That's going to be fascinating to see, because Gabi, I think, will be in a more thoughtful mood, like just kind of pondering everything that's happened. will she like apologize for it, or will she stand her ground, as a, honorary Marleyan, as she, kind of keeps saying. And the parents, who've seemed very understanding and, emotional about what happened, but, getting on with things, I suppose. Will it come back? Will the emotions come back up, or what? Will they be more accepting of, the situation Gabby was in at the time? Really, really interesting stuff. But the point here is that they do just take Falco and Gabby in. They don't really question their story about why two kids are wandering around on their own. They just completely open up their doors, offer them food straight away, and Falco is aware that, look, they're normal people, it's fine. You don't have to be so on edge. Yet Gabby is on edge, and the second she's kind of like attempted to be comforted by the mother, she snaps at her, and it's this real like tension moment that just suddenly like, what's going to happen here? And Gabby just has to calm down and realize that they're not devils, they're normal people. There's no such thing as a good Eldian. They're all Eldian, they're all people. This is food, just eat it. And the slow, her hand is shaking, she eats it, and then calms down. It's just really well done to have that realization of just, she's in enemy territory, she's on edge, but she has to have this awakening to sort of grow as a character, basically. And then that sort of sets up the scenes later on with, Gabby just like randomly confronts Kaya about, do you not feel guilty for the sins of your ancestors, or what happened 1,000 years ago, 100 years ago? And it's out of nowhere, and it really, like, you really go up and down on Gabby in this episode with regards to, like, what are you doing, Gabby? Like, calm down. But then you also feel the sympathy for her. But then she says this out of nowhere to Kaya. But then, surprisingly, like, Kaya, basically kind of fires back at Gabby. And, for this character who, like, we only know through, like, that one emotional episode with Sasha, we didn't think she was going to be important, but here she is, reflecting on that very event and how it impacts her, and just directly telling it that she knew they were from Marley the whole time, and has attempted to treat them normally. But now that she's being accused of something, she fights back here, and I really really like that, and what it gets sort of Gabby talking about that, just a simple question of what did me or my mother do to deserve this, basically. Are we responsible for the sins of what happened in the past? And even when Gabby sort of reframes it to your people killed my people not that long ago, she points out that, like, my mother died 4 years ago. So what's the problem here? Like, did anything happen? Like, what are you accusing her of? And Falco is forced to admit that here is why your mother died. It's because the warrior unit executed this recon in force mission that resulted in the Titans attacking, and they directly get to see a town affected by Titans, buildings destroyed, and a story here of a child having to watch their mother be eaten alive. Brutal stuff. And again, Gabby's been through the attack that just happened, of course, but Kaya's feelings are just as valid, and just realizing that, yeah, they aren't aware of this massive history about what they did in the past, because of course the king erased all their memories and they wouldn't remember it. But in general, it did happen 1,000 years ago. Even if they did potentially know their own full history, are they really responsible for what happened? And how truthful is it, because it was told to you by Marley, the exact details of that. So a lot of really thought-provoking things here, and just the voice acting from Gabby's voice actress, Kaya's voice actress was fantastic in this scene. Two of the newer characters that they based the core of this on, a character where it's her second appearance in the entire show, getting to stand down in such an emotional scene, and our sort of main character of the new cast members able to shore up pretty much a whole episode by themselves. But the other stuff in the episode is just as sort of thought-provoking, like Hanji talking to the press and so on, and that they're beginning to lose trust because Hanji used to tell them everything, but now she's being secretive as well. And she's being secretive because the leadership of Parody is being secretive. And it seems like a faction is beginning to develop that doesn't agree with, I suppose, the way Parody is being led. That it's being very focused on the politics and stuff like this, and interacting with the other nations, and not so much on we're best when we act. And so you see like Flock's group seemingly forming here, him and a lot of the younger recruits who have, I suppose, very different kind of perspectives on things because of maybe just how young they were when what happened, and they're coming into things now knowing the truth, but maybe not knowing the full story. So, and that's what the Louise Mikasa scene was so strong. That's why that worked so well. Was just her being like, yeah, I'm happy that I did this. I don't mind being in here because I fully believed in what I did. Like, hey Mikasa, why did you join the Scouts? And she's pointing out that, like, I support Eren. You joined because you supported Eren too, right? And Mikasa doesn't know how to feel about Eren right now, so she doesn't answer. She refuses to engage with Louise, even though Louise brings up some kind of interesting points. It's just showing that a lot of our main cast members are in situations where they don't really know what to do. Hanji is a little lost about where exactly she is as the leader of the Scouts, but she maybe doesn't have a big enough voice to make the decisions on like a bigger scale, and she still has to follow the higher ups above her. But the Scouts have been the ones who have like accomplished most of the main things for humanity recently, and it's just this situation where she doesn't know what to do. Mikasa now is very lost as a character. She's sort of defined by following, supporting, protecting Eren. Eren saved her, and she's latched onto him since then. And the fact that they go back and show you that flashback scene to, I suppose, that attachment happening, it seems to almost be suggesting that literally something sort of switched on in her at that point, and that's why she has been so attached to Eren. Now, it could also be Mikasa reflecting on, she's seen recently Eren do some pretty brutal things, but now she's reflecting that, like, oh wait, he was kind of like that in the past as well. But you can't really blame him for that situation, in that he was defending Mikasa and what happened. It was a crazy situation, but still, given how young he was, what he did, what they both did, I suppose, is still pretty notable. But that's left sort of unresolved to a degree. I don't know, does that relate to the whole Ackerman thing? We're not really sure about that just yet, I suppose. But yeah, there's other scenes. We saw another scene of the Azumabito clan, and they're back here. They reveal that they have some of the Ice Burst Stone and have invented this, they call it the first ever flying boat, which they're going to use to monitor the test rumbling that they're going to do. So the progress with that clan is doing quite well in terms of an ally kind of relationship, but again, the press is asking questions. Why is Eren in prison? Flock is asking questions about, like, Eren is the centerpiece of what we're about. Why is he in prison? Is anything being accomplished with him being in prison? No, it's just time wasting. Like, I get you have to punish people, but literally Eren just being in prison is just a waste of time. Like, you're going to have to use him the second you let him out, so why not just let him out? And you're seeing a lot of people form behind Eren, and especially with what Eren did in the last episode in terms of being a bit more kind of rebellious, kind of getting across that I'm being good here by accepting being in prison, but I can escape if I wanted to. So they're clearly setting up, I think, that he probably will be forced to escape, because I can see the overall plan that I suppose a lot of these characters want to accomplish, to be more proactive, not being able to be accomplished with the way the slow, steady sort of political leadership goals of Parody are happening right now. And again, the likes of like Armin Mikasa, sure they want peace, but do they have a way to achieve it? Eren is the one kind of maybe wanting to act right now and, act as the attack titan and do something. So, that's kind of interesting. Not to mention, like, again, the setup with the poison and something with Zeke is happening, and I don't know what's going to happen there. I'm guessing it will be just some sort of craziness where, like, out of the blue, it seems like what they're setting up is that Kaya is going to she's inviting Gabi and Falco to come with her as the orphans, I suppose, are getting to go to a restaurant, and maybe through that trip they'll find a way back to Marley. As that's happening, I'm guessing something's going to happen. We're going to see a lot of these factions that are maybe, captive or something like that break out, and we're really going to see like a rift form here, because like Yelena and the other sort of Marleyan people who have joined up with Paradis have, potentially been like, not treated the best, like really treated that like, you're going to do something, aren't you? So we're just going to imprison you. Not the best look from Paradis, having just sort of gained some power on the world stage. So they're probably going to do something. They've already established that Floch is being a little bit rebellious and is completely in support of Eren and what he wants. Eren and Zeke theoretically might be able to escape, and we'll see where we go from there. In that, like, if we get a full-on faction break within like the scouts and the military of Paradis, I don't really know where we're going, because they also set up that the Marley are planning a counterattack at some point. They're just going to gather their allies from the other nations first, but then they will attack. So I'm guessing it has to build to the rumbling. So they have to keep Zeke and Eren apart for long enough for some stuff to happen, but then once they're together, I guess they will have to activate the rumbling to some degree, if that's what their plan really is. The only maybe question I have that's I'm a little bit confused about is like the rumbling is apparently meant to be this like world flattening event that will like end the world, yet everyone's kind of like talking quite openly about like, yeah, we'll use the rumbling as if like we want to wipe out the world. And I know they mentioned like testing it in the last episode, but it's not particularly clear how they're planning to accomplish this necessarily. So maybe just some more details on the rumbling would be nice, but either way, what they accomplished here in this episode I thought was pretty well done. Maybe not the absolute strongest episode of the season, but the character stuff was very, very good here. Everything with like Gabi, Falco, and Kaya was very, very good. Even some of the like funnier scenes, like Gabi and her really clumsy moment with the horse, and then she slips into the mud, the bucket lands on her head, and Falco acts like she's been killed almost. That was quite fun and a nice contrast to show that it's still goofy Gabi, even though she's killed Sasha. She really kills this guy with a brick and is, screaming about the sins of the past that she's just been told about, doesn't really know anything about, that doesn't particularly affect the present day because no one knows the full details of it. You're frustrated with her in some cases, but like other aspects of it, and that's kind of interesting. But like at the same time, she's ready to like stab Kaya with a pitchfork just because she knows she's from Marley. Like, it's a bit like, yikes, what's going on here. So I'm excited to see how they do the sort of follow up to this. When will a potential reveal of like Sasha, a lot of the Sasha reveals coming out here to the characters about, the identity here of Gabi being Sasha's killer, and then to Gabi that you are basically where Sasha lives. This is her family, and this is the girl Sasha saved. Really, really interesting stuff. But yeah, they're my thoughts on this episode. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were. But that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.